Hello, this is Milton Road, and indeed it is a road. But look, can you see how the road sort of dips down into the ground? And hang on a minute, it's a dual carriageway. Why do we need to have two separate carriageways and a road that lowers down in a seemingly quiet area of the Bedfordshire countryside? Well, the answer to that is quite extraordinary, because what we're looking at are the beginnings of a batshit crazy idea. Back in the day, Milton Road and its surrounding area may not have been all that quiet. I don't know if you've heard, but between 1939 and 1945, there was a small disagreement, and not for the first time either. But as a result, technology advanced at an incredible rate, and we ended up with jet engine aircraft. Once things had all settled down, work continued on these newfangled jet engines, and a place was required to further develop and research the technology. They decided to take three ex-wartime airfields in Bedfordshire, RAF Twinwood Farm, Thurley and Little Stoughton or Staunton, and turn them into a huge facility where all of the R&D and flight testing could take place. The thing is, these airfields, whilst close to one another, aren't actually connected, and here's the first batshit crazy idea that they came up with. They had the thought of connecting Thurley and Little Staunton via a runway, a 5-mile long runway. Thurley already had a sizable runway, but this apparently wasn't enough, and a 5-mile runway was required, and there was only a few farmers' fields between the two airfields, so you could knock that together in a weekend. As for the Twinwoods Farm airfield, here was to be a huge wind tunnel and engine testing facility built, meaning between the three sites they'd have everything they needed to cash in on the aerospace industry that was about to hit the big time, and build it they did, constructing wind tunnels that would allow for testing at speeds of Mach 5 or over 3,800 miles per hour. That's a lot of wind, and if you ask me, an amazing level of technology considering it was the late 1940s. It was so significant to the world of aviation that pretty much every aircraft made between the 1950s and the 1970s had some sort of testing done at Twinwoods. Other fun things that were tested and developed at Twinwoods and Thurley Airfield include automatic landing for aircraft, runway approach lighting, vertical takeoff and landing, aircraft carrier catapult launcher thingies, and a whole host of other stuff that today is mostly standard fit equipment. It's definitely not the only site of its type in the country, but to say its impact on aviation was massive would be an understatement. But the road, yes, sorry, let's get back on track. So Milton Road has this odd section where it's lowered into a cutting, and it has a dual carriageway section that makes no sense, or at least today it makes no sense. We've already learned of how they intended to connect Thurley to Little Staunton via that mental 5-mile long runway, but a different approach was taken when looking to connect Thurley to Twinwoods, with that being the main testing facility. It would be nice to move aircraft directly from the testing area to the runway, do a few flights or whatever, and then return back to the test area for cups of tea all round, but small problem, there's 1.5 miles between the two sites. But once more, we've learned of a 5-mile long runway, so what's 1.5 miles? F*** all, according to their ideas. The plan was to construct a taxiway, yep, 1.5 miles worth, linking the two sites, and that was problem solved. They'd be able to move aircraft between all three of their sites, and they didn't even need to take off. The only obstacle was, yep, you guessed it, Milton Road. What a prick. First things first, before they built a taxiway, some changes needed to be made to Milton Road, which at the time was just a single carriageway country lane. There were some other roads in the area to deal with, but they were easy, just delete them. But Milton Road couldn't be removed in the same way because people needed to get about, so in order to build their massive taxiway, they planned to build it over the top of Milton Road. And this answers why the road is lowered into a cutting. It's easier to lower your road than raise your taxiway, and it's most likely cheaper as well. The taxiway would have crossed over Milton Road via a bridge, and this answers why the road was turned into a dual carriageway. It's nothing to do with traffic. It allowed them to build a solid concrete foundation in the middle of the road where the bridge support structures could then be built. And hidden in the undergrowth on either side of the carriageway are some solid foundations, which I assume would have been used for more bridge supports or maybe as part of the main bridge structure itself. Interestingly, we can see at the edge of Thurley Airfield a sort of stub of carriageway, if you will, or taxiway in this case, that points directly to us here at Milton Road in a near-perfect straight line. And this gives us a very good idea of where the taxiway would have gone. And yeah, you've probably noticed there is no 5-mile long runway or 1.5 mile long taxiway. In fact, Milton Road is the only evidence on the ground of that grand plan actually being carried out. And that's because shortly after work started, someone had another look at the plans and decided that maybe a 5-mile long runway and all of the gubbins was a bit excessive. Was it really needed, and did we really need to spend the money on it? No, we didn't. After all of the planning and hype, plans for a huge aeronautical research facility were cancelled. mostly. What they did was remove the over-the-top elements, so no silly runways or taxiways, but the wind tunnel facility and Thurley Airfield would crack on as two separate sites not to be connected as previous plans suggested, and Little Staunton would pretty much close down. But that's why Milton Road, the tiny countryside road in Bedfordshire, is lowered into a cutting and has an odd dual carriageway section, today serving as the only hint or reminder of what was once clearly a very ambitious plan. Although I'd like to have seen them build the 5-mile runway, because I think that would have been quite spectacular. Thanks to Roger and others in the Auto Shenanigans Facebook group, because the idea for this video started there. If you'd like to get involved, then search for Auto Shenanigans and join the group. It's that easy. There's over 10,000 members now, and we mostly talk bollocks. You'll fit right in. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Bloody hell.